Oh, hey, how are you? That's nice. Listen, my wedding anniversary is coming up, and after 16 years, you don't really give each other presents anymore. We just go for a nice dinner and enjoy each other's company. But I had this glass plate and backing from an old picture frame, and I thought, why don't I make a new picture frame, put a nice picture of us in it, and give it to my lovely wife for our anniversary? So that's what I did. And this is how I did it. So I went and got all my short cutoffs to look for material for this frame. That pile consists mostly of maple and walnut, which I think will look nice together. I then used my jack plane on that walnut to A, flatten that side, and B, see what that grain really looks like. It's nice. Next, I cut the strips down to rough size. I'm not working off a plan or anything, I'm just kind of making it up as I go along. The maple was a little cupped, so I used my tapering jig to joint one edge. If you're interested to see how I made that jig, I'll link the video for it here and in the description below. I could then run the freshly jointed edge along the fence and cut a parallel edge. Glue up time. The maple will make up the majority of the frame's body, with the walnut forming a nice contrasting outer edge. And after the glue has dried, I used my block plane to clean it up. I then sent them through my planer to make them the same thickness. And then back to the bench to clean it up with my jack plane. At this point, the walnut looked too thick and clunky to me, so I sent the pieces back through the planer to reduce it until it looked right to me. Onto the router table. Using a rabbiting bit, I routed a recess into what will be the back of the frame to hold the glass, backing, and picture. If you're interested to see how I built this router table, I will link that video as well. Now I didn't want just a boring square frame, so I decided to use this 22.5-degree chamfering bit to make it look more interesting. 1 out of 10, would not recommend. I really need to make a fence for this router table. Maybe that'll be one of my next projects. I think had I used a fence and maybe multiple shallow passes, I would have gotten better results and it would have been a lot less sketchy. I then swapped out for a regular 45-degree chamfering bit to, well, chamfer the outer edges. I then cleaned up the mess with my jack plane. I probably should have just skipped the router and done this by hand from the get-go, but hindsight and all that. And with all that done, I finally moved on to cut the miters. Each piece was long enough to yield one long side and one short side of the frame. I stuck a piece of 1/4 inch hardboard to the back fence to give me a zero clearance, which helps with aligning my markings and makes for a cleaner cut. Time to apply glue to the miters and hold it in place with tape. Now that the glue has dried, it's back to the router table. Using this slot cutting bit, I cut slots into each corner into which I will be gluing splines to strengthen these miter joints. I took a strip of maple and planed it down to the correct thickness to fit the slots I had just cut, and then cut 4 individual splines. Like I said, those splines will add strength, and making them from a contrasting wood will also add a nice little design detail. Now I just need to glue them in place. That little spatula end of the glue brush works great for getting the glue inside the slots. I let the glue dry and then came back with a flush trim saw to, well, trim everything flush. And then it's a whole lot of sanding. And more sanding. Up to 220 grit. As a final touch, I decided to laser engrave a little heart into the frame. So I had to jury-rig the frame at the approximately correct angle for the laser to do its thing. Aw, isn't it cute? Ready for the first of 3 coats of finish. I'm using General Finishes Armor Seal. In between coats, I very lightly sand with high grit sandpaper. I think this was 400 grit. I'm not looking to really take any of the finish off. I just want to knock down any dust nibs that might have settled in it. I then use a rag doused with mineral spirits to wipe the dust off the wood, and proceeded to promptly knock the bottle over.
After the mineral spirit had evaporated off the wood, I applied the last coat of finish. That walnut looks beautiful. After the final coat had dried, I used some brown paper as a kind of super high grit sandpaper and just went over any rough spots I could feel. It leaves the wood feeling very smooth. And finally, I pre-drilled and installed the hanging hardware and the little retainer clips that hold the glass and backing in place. And there it is. Isn't that pretty? The miters aren't perfect, but overall it came out really nice. And more importantly, my wife loves it. Hope you liked the video. Thanks for watching.